This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
نبدأ من باكستان حيث فجر انتحاري نفسه عند حاجز تفتيش.
A suicide bomber blew himself up at a checkpoint in Rawalpindi in Islamabad, only 1 kilometer away from the army's headquarters, where President Pervez Musharraf was present. 7 people were killed in the explosion, including 3 police officers and 3 people passing by, in addition to the suicide bomber. 11 others were injured, including 5 police officers. According to security sources, the road where the explosion took place is usually used by senior Pakistani officials, including President Musharraf. The head of the Al Jazeera office in Islamabad, Ahmed Zaidan, prepared the following report for us.
The explosion at the checkpoint, which was administered by the Pakistani police in Rawalpindi, near army headquarters where President Pervez Musharraf was present, killed and injured a number of people. This explosion has several implications because it took place only hundreds of meters away from the headquarters of the Pakistani army, where Pervez Musharraf was holding a meeting with his senior aides. They were discussing the security situation in the tribal region. Security officials believe that the Pakistani security officers were the target of the attack.
It's very clear they are targeting.
It is clear that they were targeting police officers, which is common in these kinds of attacks. The police officers who were killed were performing their duty.
Musharraf, who usually uses this road, survived 2 failed assassination attempts. This suicide attack comes days after the failed suicide attack, which targeted former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, Musharraf's new ally. The explosion killed more than 100 of Bhutto's supporters in Karachi. Political observers believe that there is a link between the latest explosion and what has been happening in the tribal region.
One thing is very clear. This explosion is connected to what happened at the Red Mosque, as well as what is happening to Maulana Fadullah in Sawad, and those who are fighting in Waziristan under the command of Ayatollah Masood, along with the fighters in Bajur, led by Maulana Fakhr Muhammad.
Political instability and lack of security is on the rise, as the Pakistani opposition against Musharraf is also growing. In addition, disturbances are increasing in the tribal region of Pakistan. Political observers believe that the number of armed attacks in major Pakistani cities will increase as the Pakistani army increases its military operations in the tribal areas. Ahmed Zaidan, Al Jazeera, Islamabad.
وفي باكستان أيضا قال القائد القبلي في منطقة
The tribal leader in Mahaman Jenzil, Omar Khalid, told reporters that he has 1,500 armed men that are ready to fight under the command of the head of the Nafaz al-Sharia al-Muhammadiyya in Sawat in northwestern Pakistan. The ceasefire in this area is still in effect today. Thousands of civilians took advantage of the ceasefire between the Pakistani government and the armed men in Nafaz al-Sharia al-Muhammadiyya, which supports the Taliban movement, to escape from their homes.
President Hosni Mubarak announced plans to build a number of nuclear power plants to provide electricity. During a speech on the occasion of the opening of a power plant north of Cairo, he said that in a few days legislation will be introduced to create a higher council for the peaceful use of nuclear energy. Mubarak added that Egypt will take this path, convinced that energy is a fundamental element needed for building the future of the country, and it is an integral part of Egypt's national security.
سنمضي في ذلك اقتناعا بأن أمن الطاقة عنصر رئيسي.
Egypt will go through with the nuclear energy program with the belief that energy security is a basic element to building the future of the homeland and part and parcel of Egypt's national security system. We will begin by taking executive steps in creating the first nuclear power plant. We will make efforts, using Egypt's expertise and capabilities, to work with our various international partners and with the International Atomic Energy Agency under a framework of transparency and with respect to our obligations within the nuclear non-proliferation regime. I declare this strategic decision to you today. I say there will be many implications and responsibilities that we shall take in order for us to make important decisions on the legal and statutory laws that will affect the energy sector in a general way.
تتصل بقطاع الطاقة بوجه عام والآليات والأجهزة.
According to Palestinian sources, Israel began cutting off fuel supplies in the Gaza Strip, but this news was denied by Israel. Meanwhile, the Palestinian humanitarian crisis continued to unfold following a new wave of inflation in the Gaza Strip. In addition, Israel is threatening to execute a government decision calling for the halt of electricity and fuel supplies to the Gaza Strip.
The humanitarian situation continues to deteriorate and it is overshadowing all aspects of life in the Gaza Strip. This news comes as Israel continues to impose a blockade on the Gaza Strip and to close all border crossings there. The Palestinians continue to endure hardships as poverty and inflation rates soar to a record high. As poverty and misery continue to spread in Gaza, the number of people affected by it continue to double. The unemployment rate in Gaza continues to break records as the wheel of the Palestinian economy has come to a complete halt. Nothing is left in Gaza but death, poverty, misery, and inflation. Gaza markets continue to sizzle as inflation rates soar to a record high, and with it, human dignity is being brought down.
The humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip is tragic. The Gaza Strip can't withstand any more Israeli measures, such as tighter blockades or a halt of fuel supplies. The poverty rate in the refugee camps of the Gaza Strip stands at 80%. Thousands of factories, small businesses, and institutions are closed in Gaza. In addition, the unemployment rate is unreasonably high.
In a grim scene, hundreds of Palestinian residents waited eagerly in long lines at gas stations and scrambled for fuel supplies. The Palestinians continue to monitor the fuel crisis amidst threats by Israel to turn off the electricity in the Gaza Strip. Israel is also threatening to cut off fuel supplies to Gaza, which the Israeli government has declared a hostile entity. This will cause more hardship for the residents of the Gaza Strip.
The crisis is getting worse day after day. First, we had the electricity problem, then the inflation problem, and now we have the diesel fuel problem. We can't live without diesel fuel. The people are really afraid of the Israeli government's decision.
The Palestinians can't do much but file a request calling for international intervention, which will prevent Israel from halting fuel and humanitarian supplies to the Gaza Strip. They called on the international community to mobilize efforts to stop Israel from carrying out this decision, especially in light of the ongoing blockades and aggression against the Gaza Strip.
I plead to our officials, whether they are in Gaza or the West Bank, to fear God and take care of the people. The people in the Gaza Strip are at risk. I don't plead to the European Union or others, but I plead to the Palestinian officials to help us. Once again, I ask those who claim to be Muslims to fear God and take care of the people.
The living conditions in the Gaza Strip are indeed an extraordinary humanitarian tragedy. The threat to cut off electricity and fuel supplies to the residents of the Gaza Strip will indeed destroy what is left of their lives. It will also cause a new humanitarian crisis for the residents of this besieged and impoverished region.
Staff Sergeant Ehud Efrati, aged 34, from Beit Yoshua, was laid to rest this afternoon at the Zichron Yaakov Cemetery. He leaves a wife and 3 children. Efrati was killed yesterday during a gun battle with terrorists in the Gaza Strip. Also making headlines today, Police Commissioner Dudi Cohen has set up a panel of inquiry to investigate the circumstances behind violent clashes between police and Druse residents of the northern town of Peki-In last night. This following demands by the Druse residents of the town for an apology from Prime Minister Ehud Olmert and the setting up of a commission of inquiry for what they are calling police brutality in the violent clashes. The incident in Peki-In is viewed with special seriousness because, unlike most of the country's Muslim population, the Druze do serve in the Israel Defense Forces. They're seen as loyal citizens of the state. Over 30 people, mostly police officers, were injured, 2 of them seriously in the violence. Police came to the town in large numbers last night to arrest local youngsters who torched a cellular antenna last week. The youths claimed that the device was causing a high rate of cancer among the local population. Peki-In residents said today police used live fire to quell the riots and accused security forces of violating a Druze place of worship. 1 local resident was moderately injured by police fire. Police said the officers opened fire only when they felt their lives were in danger, after local residents began shooting at them and throwing stun grenades. Druze residents of Peki-In this morning freed a policewoman who was apparently held hostage after she took refuge in the local home of a former policeman. Every day that passes brings Israel closer to a widespread military operation in Gaza. Those were the words of Defense Minister Ehud Barak today. Barak was touring the Upper Galilee. We're not keen on such an operation, said the Defense Minister. We will be pleased if circumstances can prevent it, but its time is coming. And another warning today from the head of the IDF Gaza Command, Brigadier General Moshe Tamir, who said that Hamas is building a bunker system along the Gaza border, not unlike that of Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. This includes fortified rocket launching systems and surveillance positions around the security fence. Tamir added that Hamas is creating an army with unprecedented abilities in Gaza. Also in Gaza, Palestinians fired 2 Qassam rockets at the western Negev this morning. There were no injuries, but 1 building in a local village was damaged. Israel has reduced the amount of diesel and other fuel it supplies to Gaza, but at the same time, the Israeli government is responsible for the humanitarian conditions of the Gaza Strip and must do whatever it can to limit harm to the civilian population. That was a consensus reached late last night in high-level legal consultations presided over by Attorney General Menachem Mazuz. Mazuz banned the state from cutting off electricity to parts of the Gaza Strip, as Defense Minister Barak has threatened to do. At the same time, Mazuz ruled that Israel does have the right to cut off economic and trade ties with Gaza, which Israel last month declared a hostile territory. Returning now to the violence in the Galilee town of Peki-In, Knesset member Dov Chanin of Chadash, who chairs the Knesset socio-environmental lobby, called on Internal Security Minister Avi Dichter to open an investigation into the rioting in the northern town. He spoke with IBA's Eli Wohlgelenter about this morning's clashes.
Well, actually, in Peki-In village, there is a great worry of the citizens from cancer. There are a lot of cancer accidents or incidents in the recent years, and people are really worried. Now, people connect cancer with environmental hazards, and that is very correct. In Peki-In, many people believe that cancer is connected with cellular antennas. And the struggle against cellular antennas is very, very strong in Peki-In. Unfortunately, this time, this struggle led to a very powerful demonstration of force of the police.
So how did it come to a situation where the police were shooting live bullets at Israeli citizens?
That is exactly what I asked. You know, I asked the Minister of Interior Defense, how does it come that so many policemen enter a quiet civilian village in North Israel in the middle of the night, like in war situation? That is something we cannot agree to.
Do you think this was a provocation on the part of the police to create a situation where there would be that kind of a confrontation?
Well, actually, I cannot really give you the answer. I can tell you one thing. I personally demonstrated a lot of times against cellular antennas, and never in my life was a bullet shot. So something is wrong here. something is very wrong here, and I think that there should be clear answers to the Israeli public. How is it possible that such thing can happen in a village in Israel?
In the past few weeks, Israeli bulldozers and heavy equipment have begun digging deep in the Wadi Ain area in the Silwan village, located only tens of meters away from the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The surrounding homes in this region have begun to crack as a result of the digging, which could lead them to collapse. Residents of these homes also complain that the bulldozing is disturbing them and their children because the digging begins early in the morning hours and doesn't stop until the evening. Here is a report by Rima Mustafa.
Digging has become a familiar scene in the story of life in Jerusalem. The only thing in the story that changes is the time and place. This time, the residents of Silwan neighborhood have become the victims of new digging, through which Israel is trying to find historical artifacts that link them to this sacred spot on earth. However, Muhammad, like all the residents of her city, is a victim of these attempts. In addition to the fact that the city is old, the homes are cracking as a result of the digging. Life has become almost impossible with all the noise, dirt, and dangers that come along with digging. This digging is threatening the very foundation of their homes.
Just as you are hearing it now, the kids can't study. We don't know how to live in our homes. The dust and dirt is everywhere. Look at our stairs. We don't know what to do. May God punish them.
These craters are only a few meters away from the Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa Mosque fence. It appears that Israel is trying to reach the mosque from underneath the ground and from above it. Israel is using heavy equipment and bulldozers in order to dig.
There are artifacts. However, until now, no one has found an indication that these artifacts are Hebrew or Jewish. Most of the artifacts are Roman, Byzantine, or from the Islamic era. However, they have not found anything Israeli. I have not heard that they found anything Israeli.
To Israel, the region called the Sacred Basin, which includes this area, is the most important area in the city outside the fence. For this reason, it has continually tried to maintain a firm grip on it. Just as the ground below our feet is being undermined right now, so too are all the international agreements that prohibit changing the features of Jerusalem before a final agreement is reached. With all the digging, Israel is trying to say that it has authority over both parts of Jerusalem. Rima Mustafa, Al-Arabiya, occupied Jerusalem. Thousands of people in the occupied Golan Heights have kept their Syrian identification cards since 1967, which reflects their hope that one day they will no longer have to live under Israeli occupation. However, it seems that they will be receiving new Syrian identification cards soon, since Damascus recently decided to issue them social security numbers. Some reacted positively to the initiative, but the majority believes that this decision came too late, although they did say that their Syrian identity means more to them than having an identification card. We leave you with Mohammed al-Said from Majd al-Shams in occupied Syrian Golan Heights.
Most of the 150,000 people who were originally living in occupied Golan Heights before 1967 were forcefully migrated. Only 20,000 people are now living in the remaining 5 villages of the Golan Heights. Recently, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad ordered that they be issued Syrian social security numbers to increase their optimism of one day being united with their homeland.
Syria's decision makes us happy, and it strengthens our sense of belonging with our homeland. homeland, Syria.
The Syrian decision makes the honorable and the nationalists proud. All of the people in the Golan Heights are fighting against the Israeli occupation.
Syrian nationals who have been living in the Golan Heights do not want Israeli identification cards. So far, they have been using travel documents that do not specify their nationality. They believe that the recent Syrian decision will strengthen their sense of belonging with Syria.
We believe that this decision should have been made in 1967, not now.
We like the idea and it will help us, but I have always considered myself Syrian.
The old generation that lived in the Golan Heights before it was occupied still keep their Syrian identification cards. They hope that the Syrian government will issue them new ones.
Of course I would like to renew my identification card. I want the Syrian government to send me a new one.
The decision to give people living in the Golan Heights Syrian social security numbers is not final yet. It came after 40 years of occupation. The question now is, how many years will it be before the decision is finalized and implemented, unless, of course, the Golan Heights is returned to Syria through war or peace? Most likely, it will be war, because Israel does not seem to want peace.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov criticized U.S. sanctions against Iran as not helpful after meeting President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in Tehran on Tuesday. Lavrov said Russia is exclusively in favor of a peaceful resolution for the international community's concerns over Iran's nuclear program. Lavrov said he has told President Ahmadinejad during the talks to engage in further and preferably more active work with the IAEA to clarify questions concerning Iran's nuclear program. He added we underlined the importance of resolving these questions to restore trust in the exclusively peaceful character of Iran's activities in the sphere of nuclear energy. The United Nations nuclear chief has said Tehran could help resolve the dispute over its nuclear program if it clears up what he called all suspicions about Tehran's nuclear activities. El-Baradei said at the UN General Assembly Iran's cooperation is key to the report that the UN nuclear watchdog will present to its board next month on Tehran's nuclear program. He continued the agency has been able to verify the non-diversion of nuclear material in Iran. Iran has continued to provide access and reporting needed to enable agency verification in this regard. Parliament Speaker Ghulam Ali Haddad Adel has denounced a U.S. move to levy financial restrictions on some Iranian institutions. He told a Tuesday session of Parliament sanctions show that the U.S. is unwilling to see peace and quiet spread all over the world. The top MP said the U.S. is being isolated in the world more than ever, adding bullying has brought shame and disgrace on the White House, whose leaders think they can decide instead of the UN and impose their viewpoints on world nations. Foreign Ministry spokesman Mohammad Ali Hosseini reacts to latest anti-Iran statements by French Defense Minister Hervé Morin, calling his remarks as irresponsible comments. He said such approaches have so far inflicted heavy damage on Paris's credibility and would damage it further in the future. He said Tehran has so far had its utmost cooperation with the agency, adding Western powers are to intimidate member states of the Persian Gulf region by levying false accusations against Iran. Moran on Tuesday criticized recent statements of Mohammad El-Baradei that the IAEA has no evidence Tehran is building a bomb. El-Baradei also urged Iran's critics to stop spinning and hyping the Iranian EC.
People in Afghanistan love to fly their kites. It's a symbol of hope as their country is fought over by foreign forces and the Taliban, which used to ban kite running. Our correspondent Hamish MacDonald reports.
For both father and son, this is serious business. Kite running is Kabul's favourite pastime, and this man is the city's favourite kite maker.
It's my passion, it's my sport. What we Afghans do with paper, no one else in the world can do.
53-year-old Noor Agabichu is considered the best in his craft. He makes the kites by hand and uses homemade glue. The secret ingredients were handed down by his father, who spent 60 years refining the art. Now Noor's son is making kites too.
I want to follow in my father's footsteps, to learn this trade. I want to replace my father one day, and I want to be as famous as him.
As the cool autumn winds thrust south through the Hindu Kush ranges, Kabul's residents are preparing themselves for another unforgiving winter. But as they wait for the rain and snow to arrive, afternoons are spent on the hilltops, running kites. Success brings honour to friends and family, so it is fiercely competitive. The objective is to sever the opponent's string. Children do take part, but grown men are just as likely to be found staring up at the skies.
I lost because of your question. No, joking.
I'm very sorry.
No. You know, it's. I think that something that's very special about kite playing. It gives you a kind of excitement.
Kites are said to have arrived here almost 100 years ago. The tradition passed from China through India to Afghanistan. The Taliban banned kites, but now they dot the skyline once again. You come to a place like this and it's almost difficult to believe that this is a country torn apart by conflict. And it is perhaps the ability of the kite to help people just for a moment forget that reality, which makes kite running so popular.
I don't have any hope other than to have peace in this country. I would do anything for this country, and I hope that my kites rise up as a sign of peace in Afghanistan.
Peace may be a distant hope here, but in a country which sits on the fault lines of a fractured world, the floating kite remains a symbol of hope. Hamish MacDonald, Al Jazeera, Kabul.
Hi, I'm Jamal Dajani, producer of the show you've just been watching, Mosaic, World News from the Middle East. Just a short while ago, we came to you asking for your help to keep Mosaic on the air. We needed to raise $200,000, and I'm happy to announce that we did it. No, as a matter of fact, you did it. More than 1,600 of you helped us to reach our goal, and I want to thank you on behalf of the Mosaic team right here at Link TV for your support. Stay informed, keep watching, and thank you again.
One Nation, Many Voices. The stories of Muslims in America. At work, at play, having fun. What is life like for the millions of people in this country who practice Islam?
And then finally I looked in my heart. There he was. Even today, Muslims still recite.
Kind of in limbo.
Now's your chance to share stories of Muslims in America in our One Nation, Many Voices online film contest. We're awarding $50,000 in cash prizes divided among 6 categories: comedy, drama, documentary, animation or music, a special category for filmmakers 18 and under, plus films under 60 seconds long. You don't have to be a Muslim to enter or to vote for your favorite films online. You just have to live in the United States. The deadline for entries is November 25th, 2007, so hurry. Check out details at linktv.org/onenation. One Nation, Many Voices. Muslims in America. Stories, not stereotypes.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.